So I misspoke earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw somebody in the live chat who was getting things riled up, and I said, let's save this spot for Tyler, see if Tyler will call in. And I look at the chat, and Tyler has already called in.
Oh, okay.
Right? I want to talk to Tyler in Mississippi.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, you're live with Eric and Kevin.
Hello.
Hey.
So my argument is that God must exist because abiogenesis is proven to be false because we have failed to produce life from non-life. Life cannot come from non-life because it has to come from life, basically. So life must originate from a living God.
How do you know that?
Beginning and the end. Because supposedly, so according to the secular worldview,
well,
life.
Just remember, you can ask us. We're here.
Wait. Ask you what?
You said according to the secular worldview, and I've had so many people call in who've told me what I think that I just wanted to hop in and be like, remember, you can ask us. We're a resource. We're here. We can tell you about our worldviews.
No, yeah, I'm going about like the basic, the worldview where the Earth and the universe originated. So the universe originated 13.8 billion years ago or so with the Big Bang, and the Earth about 4.5 billion years ago, and life evolving from non-life a few billion years ago, and that non-life branching out. Is that kind of what you?
So actually, there's a distinction there that I think is incredibly important. And it's something that I saw you popping into the live chat, and I just want to make sure that we're super, super clear. Abiogenesis, which is the beginning of life, is not evolution. Abiogenesis.
I'm not arguing evolution.
Okay, abiogenesis did not evolve. It's not dependent on evolution. Evolution is something entirely.
Right.
Okay, because I thought I saw you say evolution is false, but you must have said abiogenesis is false.
Yeah, I see it in the description.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I do agree with that, but I'm not going to argue that on this show because I've seen other shows where other people argue that, but that's not what I'm here to argue.
Okay, so,
that is, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I know. There was a time when there were not us, and now there's us. As people who are much smarter than me have explored and learned and looked at the fossil record, that the life forms now share common ancestors, right? We can look at the phylogenetic tree of life and see, and that is where we're looking at evolution, and we can kind of trace that back to the proto creatures that first inhabited this place. And those proto creatures weren't always here. And so we call the beginning, the spot from not a living thing to a living thing, abiogenesis. But in the same way, when we talk about something like dark matter, we're talking about what we have understood, but we're not saying that we know everything about it. We're saying this is to the best of our knowledge what we've been able to come up with and show, definitively, hey, here's how we got from A to B to C. You can check my work. So I want to take that whole thing around abiogenesis, and I want to set that on the shelf for a second, because I gave you a decent rundown of something that you can check out yourself. It's not just my claim. And say, okay, there's that. Now let's look at your competing hypothesis. What do you have that shows your claim about a God creating all life? Like, how do you know that life has to come from? Because I think charitably, I don't know would have to be the answer, wouldn't it?
Well, see, I believe that through our observation and testing of the properties around us and such, for example, we know that, like if we see a bear, we know that bear must have come from a mother and a father bear, so we can observe and test that. Mm-hmm. And as far as we have observed and tested, to the best of our knowledge, life can only come from it can only come from life. It cannot come from non-life.
But then you get to an infinite regress like that.
Well, yeah, but see the thing is, that's the question: is where did the first life form or forms come from.
Well, and why does it get special permission, right? Because if you're saying that life has to come from life, that means God had to have been created by a God.
Yeah, it's turtles all the way down until you special plead that God is infinite and without beginning.
Yeah, prime mover.
Yeah, exactly. That's my argument. See, God is the beginning and the end, so he does not have he was not created. I believe that is the only explanation that we can offer through observation and testing, that the living God must have created the first life forms, and he created them according to their kinds, and that's what we observe and what we can observe and test today. Sure. We can observe and test that life can bring forth life, but according to the theory of abiogenesis, life originated from non-life billions of years ago, and yet that has not happened a single time today. It supposedly happened through natural means, and yet our most intelligent scientists today cannot even make it happen.
I would definitely urge you to not use our smartest scientists today, because we can pull out, scientists from 300 years ago who were the smartest at the time, but that doesn't mean that, people were valid in making assertions that they couldn't back up.
Oh, I agree. Okay. I agree with that.
So let's
agree with that.
Okay, let's take a look, because last time somebody called and talked about abiogenesis, I got messages from PhDs who were like, Eric, next time I need you to say this. And so I'm doing my best. But there are a lot of things that are indicative of how life could have started that we have been able to address and talk about, right? You have protocells out of things like lipids. You have, RNA, which can exist and replicate without DNA. Now, tell me in the comments if I was wrong about that. But you have all of these different building blocks that are there, right? That occur naturally. And so while we have that, I want to take this and I kind of want to weigh this out here, because I want to know which one, I can never know a thing 100%. And so I'm going to do the best I can with the information I have available and live this life the most honest way that I can, right? So I'm going to weigh these out. I have all of this information about how life could have started, right? And then I have the God concept. Right. Which one has more assumptions?
I believe the theory of abiogenesis has more assumptions, because it assumes that life can come from non-life, but we have observed and tested that as far as our knowledge.
But aren't you making that same assumption about God?
Well, I am making the assumption that there is a God, but I am drawing that from the observable and testable fact that life comes from only life.
No, you're making an assumption that there's an exemption for God.
Yeah, how come that exemption just can't be for abiogenesis?
No, because according to the theory of abiogenesis, of course, just life originated from non-life. That's the basic premise of abiogenesis. That has nothing to do with an infinite being being at play. The very definition of God, at least the God in the Bible, which I believe in, is he is infinite and omniscient, and he is the beginning and the end. So that's why he is the exception. But abiogenesis does not possess any of those features.
So hold on.
It can't be an exception.
Hold on, Tyler. You just listed a whole bunch of assumptions. The beginning and the end, the power and the ability to create life and universes.
That's a lot of baggage. Isn't
that way more assumptions, including the one that you're saying is there, right? That God was alive and came out of non-life, right? And then you have abiogenesis. How could you possibly think that abiogenesis has more assumptions? You just stacked a cart full of them.
Well, no, these aren't assumptions. These are the characteristics attributed to the God of the Bible, and that's just the God that I happen to believe in.
Well, that's
I'm just
very convenient.
The very definition of God is he's infinite and he has no beginning or end.
Yeah, and that makes
just the God of the Bible.
But Tyler, that makes no sense.
Makes no sense?
Yeah, at least in our understanding of abiogenesis, we've been able to see. I think I was corrected in the live chat, but not entirely. That in 2016 we've been able to see ribonucleic acid occurring naturally.
Right, but there's still no life form. That's the only problem.
Is a virus alive?
No.
But you have the ability for it to replicate and mutate, right?
Well, yes, but
Okay.
it doesn't have cells, and so it can't be alive.
So,
Not a living organism.
but you're starting to see. I hope you're starting to see where the sweater's fraying a little bit there. You know,
I can see what you're getting at, but see, there is no bridge between like viruses and other non-living molecules and life, like cells and the other components of life.
I think that conversation would probably be best had with someone who has a formal education in it. But
all right.
even if I were to say I don't know to all of the above, if I were just to look at the number of assumptions included, I would say that the God concept gets cut off because there are so many more assumptions to that God that need to be tested. And I love that you want to test them. But until they've been falsified and tested, it is not the time to accept that as the truth. You can say it's a postulate.
You're assuming that we can rely upon our own knowledge, and especially if you are conceding that human beings are only slightly more advanced apes, that cannot be exactly true.
Well,
I'm just saying it's all as the knowledge that we are given that we can see and observe and test.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
As far as the knowledge and what we can observe and see and test, we can observe and see and test that life only comes from life. And as far as we know, life cannot come from non-life. RNA and other non-living molecules can, but not living organisms.
But I just gave you a whole bunch of things that kind of point toward that. And also, you know, looking back at that, I'm sorry, but I'm feeling like there's a disconnect. And maybe I need to go back and watch this episode, but it feels to me like what you're doing is restating the same thing over and over again and not like to give, you know, a hypothesis that is falsifiable, that we can test. You say, hey, here's my idea, you know, here's what I think it might be, here's how I can show that it's wrong, you know, and you test it and you go about it that way. I don't see you doing that. I see you spitballing what we know about abiogenesis, and cool, that's fine. But I just don't see how that backs up your claim. And when looked at, the only thing you're saying is, yeah, but spitballing abiogenesis, who cares?
It's an ongoing field of study. And there's only so much that we can investigate to the best of our abilities at the moment. Maybe we can never fully investigate it. But that means that
I agree.
We can never know for sure. So we don't know and you don't know, so you know?
No, my claim is that I know that, I agree with you that we cannot know everything about the universe and such. We are limited. But my claim is that we can know through observation and testing that life just produces life. But see, because abiogenesis is not observable and testable. We have not observed and tested it. So that relies on the assumption that it actually happened.
I mean, I again, I'm just going to point back towards trying to make falsifiable tests, you know, falsifiable hypotheses, and then taking that and moving forward. I think we're starting to go in circles, and I hope that you can see that we're starting to go in circles. But I'm going to continue to look at it, and I hope that you continue to look at it too. Because I've actually talked to plenty of Christians who thought, you know, after they've accepted, okay, well, this is how we came about, then they thought, okay, well, then that's just how God planned it, and just started the first domino, and then everything went from there, knowing what it was going to turn out to be. That I don't think it's as hard.
They thought that God created abiogenesis, like God created life through abiogenesis.
Yeah, I've definitely talked to Christians who've asserted that. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make this something that you can view without it being the antithesis of everything that you believe about the world. I want you to be able to, you know, separate that stuff out and look at this individually as a claim, because that's when you're going to get the best results.
All right.
Yeah. So, Tyler?
Yes.
You said a lot in the comments. You made a lot of assertions, and you put your money where your mouth is, and you called in. Cheers to you. Respect that.
Well, thank you.
So,
and I respect you too. You've been a pretty good host. I've enjoyed talking to you.
Aw, yeah. Thank you.
I'm less polite than Eric is, but yeah.
Oh, no, Kevin's the biggest softie on the planet. All right, Tyler, take care, man.
Take care.
Yeah, that was one of those things that I really wanted to brush up on a little bit, but I couldn't get around to it.
No worries. The thing is I'm not a professional in that field.
No.
I'm also not a cosmologist. I'm also not, any number of those people who would be able to answer that to a much more satisfying degree. But when people are pointing at science and saying, I don't think this science is correct, therefore my assertion is true, it puts us in the position of being science communicators a little bit. And I think being forward like we were at the beginning and saying, hey, we're not professionals.
Yeah.
And then only putting out what we do know and not pulling facts out of our butt.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to walk that line when you're not an expert and there a lot is being thrown at you, and you don't want to overstate and put your foot in your mouth,
Like I did with the moon a couple episodes ago.
I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, I'm never going to forget that. It haunts me. So who do you want to talk to?
I don't know. I think that the abiogenesis thing it doesn't really, I don't think it really has much of an effect. Like, we don't necessarily know. Like, maybe the genesis of the universe was God. Maybe it was letting go of its consciousness to create this world. It doesn't. Let's just pretend that there was a God. So what? How do you know it's your God?
Yeah.
After that, there's a huge leap to go from maybe there was a creator. How do we know it's an intelligent creator?
Yeah, and
it could just be a non-intelligent creator. That there are way too many assumptions that go along with making that assertion, and when you could just be honest and say, we don't know yet.
Yeah, and
maybe we never will.
And that is a really good point. How do you know it's intelligent? Okay, even if you were to prove somehow that it was intelligent or we granted it, how is it yours? You're right.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was doing this, but I've definitely seen a lot of people use that as a building block toward Christianity that it just doesn't belong,
Yeah, even if we grant you that, then where do you go? How do you get to that next platform?
Yeah, and this isn't us talking trash. We're just sharing, especially because that is a lot of what I thought about as I was on my way out. And it's definitely something that gave me pause. And I tried to fill that gap with as much God as I could.
Yeah.
And I just did not want to let go of it. And I wanted to be sure, and I wanted to know. And, well, I can't.
Yeah. I think like there's Skyrim lore. One of the gods destroys itself in order to create the universe.
Really?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
I've got one more thing to add before we move on to the next call, and it's this. When I was a kid, I used to think that the library was the source of all information in the world. That you could go to the library, and if you found the right book, we already know it. You just need to find the book that has it. And I had this confidence that there was this, abundance of information, and that I just wouldn't be able to read all of the books. But if I went to the library, at the library, it would be there. And there's actually a Bible verse that I think very, very clearly sums up, those kinds of thoughts, the thought that everything that can be known, that thought that you can make assertions like that. And that's 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I played as a child, I spoke as a child, I thought as a child. And when I became a man, I put away child